Math 76, lesson 53, more on reducing and dividing fractions. So, the reducing, whoop, oh, I hit my microphone again. Hopefully that didn't hurt your eardrums. Let's see here. That's right, we're talking about reducing fractions. So, these are some crazy looking fractions. What we've got here is 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 over 2 times 2 times 3. And the question is, how do we reduce this? Well, we're kind of use our knowledge of the number 1. And let's kind of cover this up. So let's say we cover this up, right? We cover up all of this fraction except for the first half. What do we have? 2 over 2, which is equal, excuse me, oh, I think I have a frog in my throat. We have 2 over 2, which is equal to the number 1, right? So if we look at that individually, then we can say, hey, we know for a fact that 2 over 2 will reduce to the number 1. So what we can do is we can do what's called canceling. Since this is equal to the number 1, and we know that the number 1 times anything is just going to equal that number, I can cancel out all instances I find of the number 1. Meaning that if I have a 2 and a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom, I can cancel them out. Or if I have a 3 on the top and a 3 on the bottom, I can cancel those out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for instances of the number 1. So I've got one pair here, and another pair here with the 3s. The 5 is left all alone. So the fraction now just becomes 5 over 1, or just 5. And that is the answer to my problem. So I'll show you again, just in case we're not quite understanding the concept. We're looking for pairs of numbers that appear in the numerator and the denominator. And this only works with multiplication, and this is the type of problems you're going to be having, is where the numerator is just a bunch of numbers being multiplied and the denominator is a bunch of numbers being multiplied. It doesn't make sense now, but it will once we get into factoring and factor trees and all kinds of stuff like that. So again, I'm looking for pairs. In the numerator I've got a 2, in the denominator I've got a 2. I've got a pair that's equal to the number 1. I can cancel it out. Or another way you could think of it, you could say I'm writing the number 1, right? And then I'll do that again here. 2 and 2, that's 1. 2 and 3, that doesn't work. No more 2s, no 3s, but I do have 5 and 5. Okay, so what I have is 1 times 2/3 times 1, which is just 2/3, right? So that fraction is just going to reduce into 2/3. And that's my final answer there. Now let's go into division of fractions. So division of fractions, we've actually already done this, but it's been in word problem form. I believe, what was it, lesson 50? Let me go back and I'll double check. Maybe it's 51. Nope, not 51. Let me see here. Nope, not 50. Was it 49? Maybe I skipped it. Maybe it's 52. Maybe it wasn't that recently. Hold on. No, it was 49. So in lesson 49, we talked about division by a fraction. And if you remember, our 2 steps in dividing by a fraction was to find the reciprocal. Probably just butchered the spelling of that word, and to multiply. All right, and then this reciprocal could also be rewritten as invert. All right, so some people know this as invert and multiply, or reciprocal and multiply. So let's put that into place. The problem we have is how many 1/2s are in the number 3/4. And then to give you a hint off to the side, they're telling you what kind of problem this is. So if we're going to find out how many numbers are in another number, we're going to have to divide. But just in case you're having trouble understanding the concept, they went ahead and wrote it for you on the side. The problem here is 3/4 divided by 1/2. And that's what the problem looks like in the textbook. So let's go ahead and solve this. 3/4 divided by 1/2. So we're going to use our 2 steps. The first step is the divisor. We're going to find the reciprocal. So what is the reciprocal of 1/2, or the inverse of 1/2? That's 2 over 1. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to invert or find the reciprocal of 1/2. Right? So this number is going to change into 2 over 1. And then the second step is to multiply. So I'm going to take 2 over 1. I'm going to multiply that by 3/4. Once I multiply, I get 3 times, well, oh, I just did all that off camera. Terrible, terrible. Okay, sorry. So I inverted 1/2, wrote it down here as 2 over 1, and then I went to step 2, which is multiply, and then I'm taking 3/4 times 2 over 1. Now that you're all caught up to speed, let's do it. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. So now I have 6/4 as my answer, and then I need to reduce that and also make it a proper fraction. So let's make it a proper fraction. 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. So that's 1 2/4, and then 1 2/4 will reduce to 1 1/2. All right. And then we can also prove this using fraction manipulatives, but I'm not going to do that now because the whole point of this lesson is to memorize these steps and get used to performing the algorithm properly. So remember, find the reciprocal, invert, and then multiply. Let's do one more example for division of fractions. Let me find an example problem here. Here we go. Okay, so we've got how many 1/2 are in 3/8 or 3/8 divided by 1/2. Let's go with purple. So we have 3/8 divided by 1/2. Step 1, if you remember, is invert, right? So I'm going to take 1/2, I'm going to invert it. That becomes 2/1. Step 2 is to multiply. So then I take 3/8 and I multiply it by 2/1. When I multiply, 3 times 2 gives me 6. 8 times 1 gives me 8. So I have 6. Oh, I did it again. Oh, so terrible. Is something moving my camera? I guess I'm not moving my camera. I apologize. Okay, so I believe you guys saw the top half. So I took 1/2, I inverted it, right? 2/1. And then I'm taking 3 times 2, which gives me 6. 8 times 1, which gives me 8. 6/8. Man, I feel so terrible now. Horrible video. Okay, I'm not done though with 6/8. I still have to reduce this. 6 can be divided by 2 and I will get 3. 8 will be divided by 2 and I will get 4. So my final answer is 3/4. But again, your 2 steps are invert, multiply, invert, multiply, invert, multiply, or reciprocal, multiply, reciprocal, multiply. And that's how you divide fractions. If you have any questions, let me know on the school website and I will see you in class.